Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha, and I'm just sitting here in my robe drinking my morning coffee looking sexy as hell as usual. And for those of you who say I don't look sexy as hell when I do these videos in my robe, nobody cares what you think. I didn't ask you shit. Now I did 2 videos yesterday which I will link down below, and people had a couple of questions about them. The first question people really were asking me about is they don't understand why I'm recommending a false grip. Is it safe? Will it hurt their wrist? Things like that on the overhead press. And the reason I recommend it is because it is the safest method you can use. It's safer on your shoulder joints. There's far less chance of rotator cuff damage, and you can get a deeper range of motion at the bottom of the lift with less stress on the rotator cuffs, particularly because it lets you bring the elbows forward a lot more and bring your elbows in front of the wrists. Now people are saying, but it bends back my wrist and it hurts. You need to do some basic wrist stretches and you need to work on that. And people are saying that, well, you have a big frame. No guys, I have little bitty wrists. And I do front squats with that same grip, although a little wider, with 150 kilos just fine. I've done overhead presses during part of my meet prep. I was overhead pressing 100 kilos on my heaviest sets using that exact same grip. And those are weak numbers compared to some guys who weigh less than me who do Olympic lifting. You go to any Olympic lifting gym and you're going to find they do tons of overhead work, sometimes with weights much heavier than I use, and their front squat works oftentimes with weights much heavier than I use, with a clean style grip, so the wrist racked all the way back. It's an easy skill to develop, and if you're going to do a lot of overhead pressing or you're going to do a lot of front squatting, you're going to need to learn that, because the cross grip on the front squat will damage your shoulders over time. So unless you have one of those harnesses you can wear, if you're going to front squat, you're going to have to learn to use that grip. And it's just all around safer. It won't damage your wrist. You just need to work on wrist flexibility and learn to use the grip correctly. And if you do, it will help you dramatically. It's a very, very useful skill, even for upper body development, because it will improve the safety that you can do with your overhead press, and it will over time improve the weight that you can handle, particularly out of the bottom. It will give you more power out of the bottom. And as far as hitting your head with it, if you're doing the grip correctly, there's no way you're going to hit your head. If you miss the rep, you just pull your head back forward and push your arms forward and throw the weight in front of you. Throw it to the floor. It's very, very easy to avoid. I don't think I've ever seen anybody in the years of watching people do this actually hit their heads doing this, unless the only way you could do it, you'd have to be an idiot. You'd have to be lifting like a moron to do it. Because most people are consciously aware of the fact that they've got a weight over their head, and if something starts to slip, you just push your arms forward. Even if it were to, it can't roll out of your hands unless you have it all the way forward. You're more likely to have it roll forward and break your thumb and fall than you are to have it roll forward. If you're using a thumbs over grip, that actually is a much higher chance of your thumb breaking if you dump the weight, because you can't dump the weight forward. It's when you're back like that, so the weight's just going to come down. You move your head out of the way and you just drop it forward. That's the one advantage you have, is that you can drop it forward without hitting your thumb if you need to, and just hit the floor. So it's actually safer for your head. Now the other thing I was asked about was the metabolic damage fairy. Somebody asked me, is the metabolic damage fairy real? This sounds scary to me. Well, the truth is the metabolic damage fairy is a very elusive creature. Scientists have looked for it, they can't find it, so we have to revert back to mythology for it. Now, luckily for most of you, it can stray outside of its normal demographic, but the metabolic damage fairy generally only visits, at least the majority of the people it visits, are white women who are financially well off, who do some sort of physique or bikini contest for the most part. Those are the people who seem to be most subject to the metabolic damage fairy's bite. That's the people it seems to visit. And like, if you have brown skin or your ancestors come from some sort of third world country where people do starve to death, the metabolic damage fairy will probably leave you alone. So again, it predominantly visits financially well-off white women who compete in some sort of physique or figure contest. Those are the women who can cut down through 1,000 calories of food a day, do 4 hours of cardio, and start gaining fat. So for everyone else, I really wouldn't worry about it. Statistically, that fairy's not likely to visit you. And one day the scientists will discover it, and we will unravel its secrets. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.